To many Allied commanders, what George Patton was proposing sounded absurd, if not outright delusional. To the Germans, the situation seemed almost humorous. Hitler's surprise winter offensive had ripped open a massive breach in the Allied front across the Ardennes, forming what newspapers would soon immortalize as the Bulge. Inside German headquarters, confidence bordered on euphoria. Wehrmacht commanders believed they had achieved the impossible, total strategic surprise against an enemy they considered complacent, slow, and dangerously overconfident. Their calculation appeared flawless. 3 German armies, nearly 250,000 men, and close to 1,000 tanks were advancing through frozen forests under low clouds that neutralized Allied air power. The objective was not merely a battlefield victory. It was strategic shock, split the Allied armies, seize Antwerp, fracture political unity, and force a negotiated peace, before Germany collapsed under pressure elsewhere. From Berlin's perspective, winter itself was a weapon. German officers, veterans of the Eastern Front, believed cold destroyed armies more efficiently than artillery. They assumed American forces, dependent on logistics, fuel, and comfort, would crack once those systems were strained. What they failed to grasp was how much the U.S. Army had changed since 1942. By late 1944, American soldiers were no longer novices. They were hardened by years of combat, shaped by defeat and victory alike, and led by commanders who had learned war the hard way. Among those commanders stood George Smith Patton Jr., 59 years old, controversial, brilliant, and utterly convinced that war awarded audacity above all else. Patton had spent his life preparing for decisive moments. He believed battles were won not by reacting, but by acting faster than the enemy could think. To him, war was not chaos, it was rhythm. Whoever controlled tempo controlled fate. By December 1944, Patton commanded the Third Army, more than 250,000 men strong, feared by the enemy and often misunderstood by allies, yet his reputation was fragile. The slapping incidents in Sicily had nearly ended his career, and many senior officers still questioned his judgment. Some believed Patton was effective only in pursuit, a commander who excelled when the enemy was already broken. Then came December 16. While the Third Army prepared its own advance, Hitler unleashed Operation Watch on the Rhine. Before dawn, 29 German divisions smashed into thinly held American lines. Units collapsed, roads clogged, communication disintegrated. Within hours, German armor surged westward. For the first time since Normandy, Allied command faced genuine strategic shock. On December 19, Eisenhower convened an emergency meeting in Verdun. Maps showed chaos, Bastogne surrounded, the First Army fractured, German spearheads deep in Belgium. Fear crept into the room. If the Germans reached Antwerp, the entire Western Front might unravel. As commanders debated containment, Patton thought exploitation. He did not ask how to stop the enemy, he asked where to break him. What few realized was that Patton had anticipated this crisis. His staff had prepared contingency plans weeks earlier. When Eisenhower asked how long it would take the Third Army to attack north, Patton answered instantly. He was already moving. The maneuver-defied doctrine: disengage 6 divisions, pivot 90 degrees, march over 100 miles in winter, and arrive ready to fight. Textbooks called it impossible. Patton called it necessary. He understood the German weakness: time. Fuel was scarce. Momentum was everything. Delay meant collapse. With a single word, play ball, over 130,000 vehicles began moving through snow and ice. Engines ran non-stop. Weapons froze. Men endured. Morale, however, held. Patton toured the front in an open jeep, sharing the cold, reminding soldiers they were not abandoned. German commanders were stunned by the speed. Winter, once their ally, now betrayed them. At Bastogne, resistance hardened. When ordered to surrender, the American reply was simple: nuts. On December 22, Patton attacked through snowstorms the Germans believed made maneuver impossible. By December 26, Bastogne was relieved. But Patton did not stop. Relief became destruction. The German offensive had overextended, and he intended to crush it. 6 weeks of savage winter combat followed. Frozen foxholes, failed weapons, men surviving by endurance alone. By mid-January, the bulge was erased. German casualties exceeded 100,000. Their last reserves were gone. Hitler's final gamble had failed, not because of weather or numbers, but because of leadership. Patton had turned an impossible situation into an inevitable victory by acting when others hesitated. In the frozen forests of the Ardennes, winter did not decide the battle. Wool did.